a wild police gun battle against a would-be cop killer. And it's all caught on tape from a camera that's on the police officer's coat. What it feels like to be a cop under fire. Plus, tears from a retired cop accused of executing a fellow moviegoer for texting during the preview. The movie hadn't even started yet. And look at how distraught the victim's widow is in court. But first, big breaking news tonight. Stunning accusations by the defense as one of the year's most anticipated trials kicks off today with very controversial opening statements. Michael Dunn, a middle-aged white man, is accused of murdering 17-year-old unarmed African-American teen Jordan Davis during an argument over loud music. Dunn insists he repeatedly fired at an SUV full of teenagers, but in self-defense. However, prosecutors called Dunn a cold-blooded killer. Good evening, I'm Jane Velez-Mitchell, coming to you live.
We just heard gunshots at the gas station.
Bring help, please, now.
Someone got shot.
It was coming from over by the gas station, and then it looked like a Dodge Durango. It was like pop, 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 pop.
I'd never been so scared in my life. That's when I reached in my glove box, unholstered my pistol.
Yeah, it was about 9 shots.
Just hear the heavy bass. But it really wasn't an issue of loud music. It was an issue of them threatening my life.
The deadly chance encounter at a gas station ended with Dunn firing 10 rounds at the victim and his friends. 3 bullets hit Jordan Davis, killing him. We've heard the panicked 911 calls from witnesses, but today, for the very first time, we saw and heard the chaos inside the gas station, the convenience store, as bullets flew just steps away.
It was like pop, 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 and then it stopped for a second, and you heard pop, 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 pop.
You're going to hear bang, 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 bang. Not quick.
Woman in black is the defendant's girlfriend, by the way. They had just come from a wedding. Minutes before the deadly shots rang out, Michael Dunn, a software developer, asked Jordan Davis and his friends to turn down what he called very loud music. That didn't sit well with the young victim, who, according to the prosecutor, started yelling and cursing at the defendant. Now, according to a witness, Dunn yelled back and then went right for his gun in the glove box.
Can you use your voice to try to convey to the jury the volume of that person's voice?
You're not going to talk to me that way.
Just show them to the best of your ability how he fired the gun towards the Durango.
Absolutely crucial to Dunn's claim of self-defense is whether the teenagers had a weapon and threatened the defendant with it. Prosecutors insist no, the teen had no gun at all. But today, in his opening statements, Dunn's defense attorney claimed Jordan and his friends were armed. And he also said they dumped their weapon nearby after fleeing Dunn's hail of bullets. The defense charges this mystery weapon was never found because cops took days to look for it. Dunn's attorney also accuses police of manipulating the case right from the start. Listen.
The homicide detectives talked to these young men multiple times and never recorded it. Not once. And they had the ability to. And you get to ask yourself why.
So much to talk about this dramatic first day. Opening statements and the start of testimony. Call me 1-877-JVM says, I want to hear from you at home. 1-877-586-7297. Straight out to my fantastic Lions Den debate panel. We begin with former prosecutor Lonnie Coombs, Michael Dunn's defense attorney, aggressively using 2 classic techniques. Accuse the victim of being the aggressor and claim the cops bungled and manipulated the investigation. Is it enough to create reasonable doubt?
Absolutely not. Not in this case. Look, those are good arguments, and it always gives the jury something to think about. There are a few little details here, like the fact that they didn't record any of the passenger witness statements when they did record other ones. But when it comes down to this case and the evidence, where is the gun that made him so in fear for his life that he had to shoot at that car filled with people 10 times? That's what the jury's going to keep looking at. And if they forgot to record something, or even if they intentionally didn't record something, that's not going to change the evidence that the jury's going to really focus on. And that is, why did he have to fire 10 times when there was supposedly a gun in the other car, and that car never fired a bullet out of that alleged gun?
Brian Claypool, criminal defense attorney.
Hey, Jane, I'm afraid this might be the Fiasco in Florida sequel, number 2. In opening statement, the prosecutor admits that Jordan Davis was cursing with Mr. Dunn and that he was disrespectful toward Mr. Dunn. Not a smart move in opening statement, because Mr. Dunn needs to establish that he was threatened. If this jury can believe that Mr. Dunn had been threatened, that his life was threatened, then even if Jordan Davis didn't point an actual gun at Mr. Dunn, he could possibly get a hung jury on this case, because the standard is objectively reasonable. In other words, just because Jordan Davis didn't have a gun, if Dunn thought it was a gun and he's pointing something toward him,
you're mixing a whole bunch of apples
shoot.
and oranges. Rolando Watts, host of Sundays with Rolando on Blog Talk Radio, mouthing off to somebody isn't the same thing as threatening somebody's life. Those are two different things.
Look, come on, he's a kid. Of course he's going to jaw jack with a guy who tells him to turn down his music. The issue is, you cannot go around killing people in the United States of America because of what you think they might do. He thought, what was it that proved that his life was in danger? That's going to be the real crux of this. Also, his whole attitude after the shooting. How do you blow 10 shots, go home, walk your dog, order a pizza, watch a movie, that's 40 miles away, then drive another 130 miles away home the next day without calling one law enforcement officer? I mean, and let me point out, this isn't just a race thing. There are more than 60% of the people who listen to hip-hop music in this country are non-black people. So this is an issue that if you know anybody who plays loud music, you need to be concerned today. Is your child next? And I don't care what color you are. That's the question to ask here.
I want to give Brian Claypool a chance to respond to that, because we've got so much to go through, so many controversies. Go ahead.
Hey, Jay, the fact that Dunn goes back with his girlfriend to the bed and breakfast and orders a pizza does not show consciousness of guilt. It actually supports the proposition that he reasonably feared for his life and that he felt like what he did was reasonable under the circumstances. If it was consciousness of guilt, he would have driven off to the desert like Jody Arias and popped his throat and thrown his gun out in the middle of a field somewhere. So I think that's a non-issue.
Boyce Watkins, social commentator, founder of Your Black World. 10 shots, reasonable? Firing at a vehicle that is leaving and calling that self-defense?
Right. It wasn't self-defense. I mean, let's be clear. The fact that he evaded the law for so long and went home and ordered a pizza and drove almost 200 miles away, that doesn't say that he thought he didn't do anything wrong. I think that says that he thought he could get away with killing a black teenager. I think he would have shot Richard Sherman under those circumstances, because I think in his mind, Jordan Davis and his friends were thugs and nobody's going to miss a dead thug. But the fact of the matter is that if you really look at the pattern of aggression in this confrontation, the first aggressor was Dunn. They weren't talking to him. They were sitting in their car playing their music. Dunn walked over to them and confronted them about the music. So the pattern of aggression was well established from the very beginning.
All right. And of course, you were referring to the football player who said that the word thug was the new N-word. Let's go out to the phone lines. Kelly, Ohio. What do you have to say? Kelly, Ohio.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, was the parking lot too full that he couldn't move his car away from the teenagers? Like, why did he have to be right next to him or parked right next to him?
Well, very interesting question. Larry Hannon, court reporter, Florida Times Union. You were in court today where a witness, one of the key witnesses who saw the whole thing, said he pulled into a spot near the teens and thought the music was too loud and moved to another spot. Tell us about that and what that says about Dunn's alternatives.
Yes, Jane. Thanks for having me. One of the other witnesses who testified, who saw the shooting actually occur, was originally going to pull into the same spot that Michael Dunn later pulled into, realized there was loud music and pulled into another spot further away. And the state attorney, Angela Corey, made a fairly big deal out of that, pointing out to the jurors that Dunn didn't have to park next to him. There were plenty of empty spots in that Gate gas station parking lot.
Absolutely. Now, a huge shocker came today. I didn't know this, and I've been studying this case for a while. Opening statements. Both the prosecutor and the defense revealed victim Jordan Davis had a knife. The defense built it up as a big knife with a 4-inch blade about this length that cops found in his pocket. Now, prosecutors say he never took it out, but the defense tried to make it sound like some kind of massive weapon. First, listen to the prosecutor, and then the defense attorney, then we'll debate it.
The only thing he had on his person was a cell phone and a pocket knife. And both of those things were in his pockets when he was shot and killed.
And Mr. Guy calls it a pocket knife. But when you see it, it's a tactical knife. It's not a Swiss Army knife with a toothpick and a scissor. It's not like when you were a kid, the little brown ones you'd whittle with wood to make little tips on sticks. It's a 4-inch blade with black grooves to put your fingers on when it's open. It is a knife specifically made for self-defense.
Prosecutor Lonnie Coombs, what does that have to do with anything if the prosecution says it was in his pocket, he never took it out? Because the defense is, I saw what looked like a gun come up from his area. If that wasn't what looked like a gun, what does that have to do with anything?
Zero. Goose egg, Jane. This is just a chance for the defense to try and dirty up the victim, saying that somehow he was more aggressive because he had this knife in his pocket. But remember, the question the jury has to look at legally is, was it reasonable for the defendant in his frame of mind from what he saw, his point of view? He
Brian
never saw
Claypool,
this knife.
irrelevant?
He didn't know if he had this
Is a knife irrelevant?
Jane, I disagree. Technically speaking, the knife might be irrelevant, but in a world of human nature, jurors always look at the victim. And if the victim is not a good person, they're carrying a weapon, jurors tend to hold that against the victim, whether we like it or not.
All right, well, I want to stress that this young man who was killed had no criminal record whatsoever, wanted to join the U.S. military, and was, by all accounts, a very good kid. On the other side, we're going to analyze the surveillance video. And what about the defendant's girlfriend, her behavior? Stay right there.
I'd never been so scared in my life. He said, "You're dead," and opened the door. I was in such a panic. That's when I reached in my glove box, unholstered my pistol, and I shot him.